My name is Rayo Ahemohai, and this is Lagos Housewife Gadget Tuesday, where I review gadgets for you. And you know, I promised you, I told you, I said I was going to review this Breadmaker, this awesome Breadmaker for you, and I'm here to fulfill that promise for all of you looking for a simple, quick, easy to operate Breadmaker. This is the Morphy Richards. So I will be telling you about the brand, the build, the functions, and a little bit of how to use it. This is a Morphy Richards Breadmaker, and as we know, Morphy Richards is a UK brand. So this particular model is their FastBake model. So the full name is actually Morphy Richards FastBake Breadmaker. Yes, it has a fast bake option. We all know bread takes a long time to bake, but this particular model has a button that helps speed up the time. Don't worry, I'll tell you about it when I'm talking about the functions, but this is the FastBake Breadmaker from Morphy Richards. Let me tell you about the accessories that come with this particular Breadmaker. Inside here, we have the baking pan. This is where you bake your bread. This is the bread pan. And this is the kneading dough. This is what kneads your bread as you are baking. You see, that's it. So that's what will be moving in certain way of moving to knead the dough. So this, the bread pan and the kneading dough, it also comes with a measuring cup. It's very important that you use the measuring cup it comes with, not your regular ones, because every recipe is adapted for this. It also comes with these measuring spoons. This big one is the tablespoon, the smaller one is the teaspoon, and this tiny one is the quarter teaspoon. Those are basically the only measurements you will need this when you are baking bread with this particular Breadmaker. Then we also have the manual and the recipes. Earlier models that they did came with its own manual and recipe that came with it, but over time, because of environment and everything, what they do is they make the manual and the recipes available on their website, so you can print that out or download it on your phone or screenshot it, whichever one you're comfortable with. So I actually have the downloaded PDF on my phone, and I also printed it out. So that is what this is. Now to what you're waiting for, the functions. I'm going to tell you the 12 different functions it has. Number one is the basic. This is for baking basic bread, just normal, regular, everyday bread. Then number two is for French bread. Yes, I hope you know there are different types of breads. It's not just the normal, regular agege bread we know. But I've actually found that the one that mimics agege bread the most is the French bread function. That's the one that mimics our regular agege bread. So if you are looking for agege bread with your Breadmaker, look for the recipe for French bread in the manual and use the French bread function. Then you have for the whole wheat. You can use this for whole wheat bread. For those of you who do not want to use plain flour, you want to use whole wheat, this number three is the function for whole wheat. The quick, when you hear quick, this is for breads that are gluten-free, that do not have gluten, like things you will use like oat flour for, like tiger nut flour and things like that. That's the function for it, because the kneading is quick. It doesn't have to knead as long as the basic or the French or the whole wheat. So that's why it's called the quick function. So that's the one you use for non-gluten breads, gluten-free. Now, this number 5 function, the sweet, that is actually the function key for baking cakes, or like your banana bread and things like that. Those ones do not involve kneading. You can also use that. But also, it can actually be used for breads, not cake, but breads that do not actually use yeast, unyeasted breads. That is what this sweet is for. Then we come to the FastBake. 6 and 7 is FastBake 1, FastBake 2. Now, FastBake will produce bread for you from scratch to finish 1 hour. That's why it is called FastBake. For normal ones like basic, French, whole wheat, we're talking 2 hours, 50 minutes, 3 hours, 3 hours, 50 minutes. Those are the ranges. But for the FastBake, it will bake within 1 hour from kneading to baking. Now, the FastBake 1 is for the smaller loaf of bread. FastBake 2 is for if you want a bigger loaf of bread. That's why it's important to read your manual always. Then the dough, number 8, is when you just want it to knead the bread. You don't want it to bake it. Like maybe you want to shape it into bread rolls yourself, like for burger or for different things. You want to bake it in your oven. All you need is the dough. The dough will knead it, will rise, will knead it again and rise the second time. Then it will beep for you to take it out, and then you can bake it any way you want. So that's what that is for. 9, jam. Yes, in case you do not know, Breadmaker can make jam. Yes, it can make jam, it can make jelly. So that's what this button is for. Then number 10, cakes. You already know what that is, your different types of cakes. It will just do the mixing and the baking for you. There will be no strenuous kneading. Then sandwich bread. These are the firm, fluffy, soft bread. You know, this was the sandwich, is the sandwich function I used for the bread recipe I showed you. That's the sandwich function, and you see how it turned out. So the kind of breads for this one, they are very good for making things like sandwiches. Yes. Then you have 12, which is the extra bake. Now, what this one does is that it does baking only. It will not knead, it will not do anything. So maybe sometimes you've kneaded your dough yourself, or maybe you've mixed your cake or something, and all you want to do is just for the Breadmaker to bake it. This is the function you use. That's the extra bake. You just pour the things inside and it bakes. Now, on top here, you can see light, medium, dark. The first 3 letters, words there, light, medium, dark. This is to choose how you want your bread color to turn out. If you want it light, you don't want the crust dark at all. Then medium if you just want it lightly brown. Then dark if you want it dark brown. People like me that like burnt bread, this is that option. But it doesn't work for all these. There are certain kind of breads that should not be light or medium or dark. The Breadmaker will automatically set it itself. But there are some of the functions, if you read through your manual, that you'll be able to select light, medium, or dark. Then the last 2 ones, you can see 1.5 pounds and 2 pounds. Yes, this Breadmaker is capable of making a bread the size 1.5 pounds, that is 680 grams. Or the bigger size, which is 2 pounds, that is 907 grams approximately. So you should know the type you are baking, the size you are baking, so that when you are selecting the functions, you can also select the size you want. That's why it's good to follow the manual. I keep telling you. Then this for time. Like if you are doing the extra bake, you just want to bake, you can set your time yourself. That's like a manual override. And if like you are doing dough, you just want to knead dough and you want to specify how long it should knead, you can set the time yourself. So this is to increase time, this is to reduce time. Then the loaf size, as I told you, 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds, that's 680 grams or 907 grams. That's what you use to select it. The menu is what you use to select all these functions. So you can switch between it, 1, 2, 3, and co. The crust is what you use to select between light, medium, or dark. Light, medium, or dark. And of course, this is the start and stop button. Let me switch it on just to show you an example. Okay, when you turn it on, it's on 1. You can start selecting. 2, that is French. Whole wheat, quick, you can see that. Sweet, FastBake, you can see the FastBake. 58, that's for the smaller size of the FastBake, 58 minutes. The bigger size of the FastBake is also 58 minutes, but it knows the way to adjust the temperature. Then for the dough, this is to knead dough and everything. For jam, number 9. Cake, from beginning to end. Sandwich, you can see that. An extra bake, which you can adjust the time or reduce the time and everything. So let me take it again down to basic. Assuming you want to select, you see it's on medium, you can choose to select the crust, either dark, light, medium, dark. So to select the loaf size, you just press it once. There's an arrow that will show you it's on the 1.5. You press it the second time, it will move to the 2 pounds. So you just once for 1.5, twice for 2 pounds. Then also for the crust, once for the light crust, 2 times for medium, and 3 times for dark. So that's just it. So if you want it to start baking, all you need to do is just click start to press start. There's nothing inside, that's why I'm not pressing it right now, but you should have seen my recipe video. You can check that in the link there, so you'll see how I baked with it. Now, what I want to tell you is something that applies to all bread makers. Here's the thing. This bread pan, you cannot use any other type. Whatever bread pan comes with the bread maker is what it has been set to be used with. Please do not attempt to switch bread pans with different bread makers. It will not work. That's number one. Number two, baking in a bread maker is infinitely different from using your hand to bake or using a mixer. I know many of you are used to proofing your yeast, adding your yeast to warm water before now adding it to the flour and everything like that. Do not try that with a bread maker. A bread maker does not work like that. If you want to test your yeast to know if it's still good, test it separately, not the one you will put into the mixer. Into the bread maker. With a bread maker, the yeast and the water should never mix at the beginning at all, because the water will immediately activate the yeast, and what you are going to get is a bread that will rise fast. Then when it's baking, it will deflate and be hard and dense. So please, when you're about to start using a bread maker, always first of all follow the recipes. I've been using Breadmaker for a while now. That's why I'm able to adjust and come up with different recipes. But even with that, I still goof with so many things because it's always a learning curve. But you can never go wrong following their exact recipes. That's one thing I want you to know. With bread makers, you do not use any warm ingredients. I know we are used to when we are baking bread, you use warm water or lukewarm water. Everything in a bread maker should be room temperature. The bread maker is programmed to regulate the temperature of the ingredients by itself. So put your water room temperature, your flour room temperature. If you are using milk, room temperature, egg room temperature, everything room temperature. And then it has an order in which you will put your ingredients. The liquid always comes first. Always. Pour in the liquid first. Then you will add in, forget all that word of saying they don't mix sugar and salt. With a bread maker, it really doesn't matter. You add in your sugar, you add in your milk. Then the flour will now come between the liquid and the yeast. I told you the yeast must not mix with the liquid from the beginning in a bread maker. So you have to put the flour, it will now act as a layer between the liquid. Then the yeast will come on top before the bread maker will now start its work. The yeast is always the last thing added to a bread maker when you're about to bake. Now, one last thing I want to tell you about any bread maker. When you are putting your things, separate, remove this bread pan from inside before putting the things inside. Don't leave it inside and start adding it. There's the tendency for things to pop, and this place is the engine. This inside is the engine. Any liquid pouring in there can cause electric shock. So please be careful. That's why they made it to be removable. If it didn't matter, it will not be removable. It will just be permanent, but it's removable. So you remove it, put all your things, then you put it back inside. You've learned that now. Now, what I love about this particular bread maker, you know, I told you I've used bread makers before, so I can do a little comparison. What I especially love about this is that it's number one, it's 600 watts. That is quite low for a bread maker, but it works perfectly. And you know, with us in Nigeria, where power is an issue, 600 watts is perfect. The generator carries it conveniently. So even when there is no light, I'm able to use my gen to power it. That's number one. Number two, it has an auto save. How will I put it? Auto save, yes, inside. So that if you're using it, maybe it has started kneading and it has kneaded for like 15 minutes and it's still remaining like 10 minutes of kneading before it will start proofing. And NEPA takes light. For us in Nigeria again, NEPA takes light. It automatically saves that time and that process. So when you put on your gen or NEPA brings light again, you just press it and immediately it will start off from where it stopped. But of course, you know, with yeast, you can't leave yeast for long. Yeast will get activated. So it's not as if there should be a long time before you get an alternative source of power to start it. But what I'm trying to say is it will auto save that time. So there's no need for it to start from the beginning again, which can result in over kneading or over stressing the gluten and making it deflate. No, where it stops is where it will pick up from when power comes back on. So I love that about it. And then of course the FastBake, like when you forget to put on to do bread at the time when you should have and all that, and you say, oh no, we need bread for breakfast, it's already 5 o'clock. The FastBake option is there for you. But please follow the recipe for the FastBake. The FastBake doesn't work like normal bread recipes that we know. It uses the ratio to flour, the flour to water ratio is very exact, so you really have to follow it. And yes, another thing I love about this is that it has a 13 hours delay. What that means is maybe you are not ready to start baking yet, but you are going out and you know you have lights. It's not a situation where what you will do is you will put your ingredients inside, then you will time it to start in maybe 6 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours, 10 hours time. You understand? So the ingredients will be there, nothing will be done to it. You see why I said the importance of separating yeast and flour and water, liquid. As long as the yeast is not touching the liquid, the yeast will not activate. So it will just be there, relaxing, waiting, nothing will happen to the ingredient, and you can set it to start in 13 hours time or 10 hours time. Maximum is 13 hours, minimum is 1 hour. Once that time you set starts, it kicks in and it starts kneading and it starts. So you can actually just put your thing inside and walk away, knowing that it will start at the right time, and when you are back, you have hot bread. This also keeps bread hot for 1 hour. Bread is not supposed to stay hot for a long time. The longer bread stays hot, the more it sucks in, what do they call it? The steam. It makes it soggy. The bread will now become soggy. So that's why it doesn't keep warm for longer than 1 hour. 1 hour is the maximum, so the bread doesn't turn soggy. After 1 hour, it will switch off. It will not keep it warm again, and will just keep it at normal temperature, and then you can come and remove your bread. Yes, just one thing more about taking care of it. Whenever you use it, use a damp cloth to clean everything. Not wet, please, not the one that water will be dripping, just damp to wipe it down. You can also wipe inside. When you are wiping inside, please always make sure it's disconnected from the power source. Do not keep it connected. So you just wipe it. This is actually extremely easy to keep clean. And when you're using it, make sure it's in a place like the counter like this, because there are air vents at the side. where it releases steam so that it doesn't overheat. You can see at the two sides. It's important, and keep it on a steady surface, something that is not shaking, because as it's kneading, you know how when your mixer self is kneading, it kind of shakes. So it can shake, but if it's on a stable surface, nothing will happen to it. It won't move, it won't fall. Then whenever you use the bread maker, please wash it immediately. Do not keep it. It's non-stick, so it needs to be kept clean and wiped clean. And here, this place where you fix in the dough hook, please keep it oiled so that it will be moving fluidly. If you let it get dry, there's the tendency for it not to move fluidly as it should. So just this inside and this tiny pin like something, just even if it's, put a dab of oil, any cooking oil, and rub it on it, and rub it inside here too. That is all you need, and your bread maker will serve you for a long time. So that is the review. Now that you know, as my husband said, he said a bread maker is one extremely underrated kitchen gadget. Every home needs one, and I agree. It's amazing, especially for people who love eating bread. Instead of buying bread, you know all the orishirishi things they put inside bread. You can make your own. Even if you are not adding all the flaxseed, the chia seeds, the tiger nut that me I add and everything. Being able to make your bread, your own bread yourself, with simple flour, yeast, a tiny bit of sweetener like honey and co, and just a tiny bit of salt. That's basically all you need to make bread. Now compare it to the list of unrecognizable ingredients that are in commercial bread. So you see why you need one: for your health, for your family, for your convenience, and to be eating fresh hot bread that butter will be melting inside as you are just putting it. So that is the review of the Morphy Richards FastBake bread maker. I hope now you have a better understanding of how a bread maker works, and if you want to get this, I'll put in the description the contact details of where I got it. So till next time again, it's Lagos Housewife as always, and I'll be coming your way with another wonderful gadget I want to review for you. Ciao.